It was during the summer of 2018 when 23-year-old Sophia moved into a small apartment in the southern part of Mexico City. She had just started her first job and wanted to prove she could live on her own. The apartment wasn't fancy, but it was cheap, close to work, and large enough for one person. Her grandmother warned her before she left. Never whistle after midnight, and if someone calls your name from outside when you're alone, don't answer. Sophia laughed. She loved her grandmother, but she didn't believe in old superstitions. For the first few months, everything was normal, until one Thursday night. Sophia woke up around 3 in the morning because she thought someone was walking across her roof. Slow, heavy, step, step, step. She sat up in bed and listened. The footsteps stopped. Thinking it was just a cat, she went back to sleep. The next night it happened again, and the night after that, for an entire week, always around 3 in the morning, always the same slow footsteps above her room. She asked the neighbors if they had heard anything. No one had. One old woman simply crossed herself and told Sophia, "If it comes every night, don't look for it." But Sophia ignored the warning. One night she climbed onto the roof. Nothing. No animals, no footprints, nothing. But as she was about to climb back down, she noticed something strange. On the opposite roof stood an old woman dressed completely in black. She wasn't moving. She wasn't speaking. She was simply staring. Sophia waved. The woman didn't respond. She just smiled. And then she slowly raised one hand and pointed directly at her. Terrified, Sophia ran downstairs. The next morning, she convinced herself it had all been her imagination, until strange things began happening. Her food spoiled. Plants died. She constantly felt exhausted, and every morning she woke up with new scratches on her arms. Then came the dreams. Every night she dreamed of the same old woman standing beside her bed, smiling, watching, waiting. One morning, Sophia woke up unable to move. Her eyes opened, but her body wouldn't respond. And standing in the corner of her room was the old woman, smiling. As suddenly as she appeared, she vanished. Sophia began sleeping with the lights on, but the footsteps on the roof continued. One night she heard something new, a voice, soft, whispering her name, Sophia. She froze. Again, Sophia. The voice sounded like an old woman. Then came 3 knocks on her bedroom window. Knock, knock, knock. Her apartment was on the 2nd floor. No one should have been there. She refused to look. By morning, she was shaking. Desperate, she called her grandmother. The old woman became silent. Then she asked one question. "Did she mark you?" Sophia didn't understand until her grandmother told her to check the back of her neck. Standing in front of the mirror, Sophia slowly moved her hair aside. And there it was, 3 black marks, like fingerprints.
Her grandmother immediately told her to leave the apartment and visit a woman known throughout Mexico City. People called her Doña Isabel. Some said she was a curandera. Others said she was a witch herself. Sofia found the woman living inside a small house filled with candles and herbs. Before Sofia even spoke, Doña Isabel looked up and said, "You looked at her." Sofia's blood turned cold. The old woman examined the marks. Then she sighed. "She chose you." According to Doña Isabel, certain entities feed on fear. Once they attach themselves to someone, they slowly weaken them, and if nothing is done, they eventually enter the home completely. Sofia asked who the old woman was. Doña Isabel simply answered, "Something older than a witch." That night, the cleansing began. Candles burned, prayers were spoken, herbs filled the room with smoke, and as the ritual continued, all the lights inside the house suddenly went out. Something heavy began walking across the roof. Step, step, step. Everyone inside froze, even Doña Isabel. The footsteps stopped directly above them. Then came 3 knocks. Boom, boom, boom. Doña Isabel whispered, "Do not answer." The room became ice cold, and then an old woman's voice spoke from outside. "Sofia!" The same voice she had heard before. "Sofia, come outside." Tears filled Sofia's eyes, but nobody moved. Minutes passed, then silence. When the lights returned, Doña Isabel looked pale. She handed Sofia a small cross and said, "Leave your apartment tonight." Sofia never returned. Within a month, she moved to another neighborhood. The scratches disappeared, the nightmares stopped, and she never again heard footsteps on the roof. Years later, she learned something disturbing. The apartment she once lived in had remained empty. No tenant stayed more than a few months. And the old woman who used to live across the street had died in 1996. Neighbors claimed she had practiced witchcraft. But perhaps the most chilling detail came from an elderly man who had lived there his entire life. When Sofia showed him a picture of the woman she had seen, the old man crossed himself and whispered, "Impossible. That's exactly how she looked before they buried her." To this day, Sofia refuses to speak about that summer, but she still sleeps with the lights on, because sometimes, just before dawn, she swears she can hear slow footsteps above her ceiling. Step, step, step.